lot of the stocks that I've been recommending, a lot of these stocks in the last couple of weeks, 2 or 3 weeks, have gone up 30, 40, 50%, not even counting the currency. But these stocks are still way down, Now, there are some stocks that are still close to their lows, within 5 or 10% of their lows right now in local currency. So it is certainly not too late to build a portfolio of foreign stocks, and the yields are incredible. Remember, we're talking about dividend yields of 10 and 20%. Why would somebody turn down those yields in order to keep their money in cash and government paper and take a 1 or 2% yield? It makes no sense. Look at the yield on the 30-year bond. It's like 2.6%. The 10-year is like 2.4%. What would anybody in their right mind buy U.S. Treasuries, holding it for 30 years to add 2.5%? No, of course not. This is insane. This is a mania. And, of course, the buyers are either traders who are buying to sell their trading momentum, or they're the Federal Reserve that's just buying to artificially suppress interest rates in the short run. But believe me, nobody is buying into the Treasuries with real money. Nobody is buying a 30-year government bond hoping to clip coupons for the next 30 years at 2.5%. Nobody around the world is doing that. Anybody with an ounce of intelligence is selling every U.S. government bond they have to the Federal Reserve right now. And they're taking their dollar, and they're taking the money, the dollars that they get by selling bonds to the Treasury, and they're buying euros, they're buying yen. The yen now is at a 13 or a 14-year high against the euro. They're buying other things. That's probably why you're seeing bonds rising and the dollar falling, because our foreign creditors are selling their U.S. Treasuries to the Federal Reserve. And when they get in their dollars, they're buying other currencies. And ultimately, right, when the only buyer in town is the Federal Reserve, and for all we know, they're the only buyer right now, right? The bonds are going to collapse. Nobody's going to want it because the money's going to have no value. I mean, think about it, right? What's worse than owning a dollar today? Having the promise to be paid $1 in 30 years. I don't know what the dollar's going to be worth in 30 days, let alone 30 years. Right? So you people have to understand that we are living at a very important moment in time. We are going to witness the destruction of our currency and a massive collapse in our economy. The major economic collapse that is going to be unleashed is not the result of the unwinding of all the imbalances that I've been writing about and warning about for years. Right? That's going to happen anyway. This massive disaster, this inflationary or hyperinflationary depression that the government and the central bank is leading us right into, right? This is created by government, right? This has got nothing to do with the free markets. This has got nothing to do with the tough medicine that we need to take. This is what's going to happen because the government is denying that medicine, right? The government is going to try to stimulate us when we're already close to overdose. We have too much heroin, we have too much alcohol in the system, and the government's going to shoot us up with some more, and this stimulus is they're going to give the economy an overdose of stimulus that is hyperinflation, and there is no end to what's going to happen. And remember, every time the government stimulates this economy, no matter what they do, no matter who they bail out, they're going to make the situation worse. And every time they make it worse, guess what? They up the dosage. And every time they up the dosage, they do even more damage. I don't see any way out of this spiral right now. There is nobody in Washington. Nobody is standing up to this. It is just a perpetual a loop of destruction. And all you can do is get out of the way because it's going to destroy everybody in its wake. And as I said, you can't be worried about, well, the short-term volatility, or what if I buy some stock and it goes down? It doesn't matter, because if you hold your dollars, you will go broke. There is no doubt in my mind that that's the case. And so you got to decide. People have to decide, what risks in life do you want to assume? Do you want to take your chances that the Keynesians are right, that the inflationists are right, that the socialists and the Marxists and the central planners are right? If that's what you want to put your faith in, then hold on to U.S. dollars. But if you want to put your faith in the free markets and capitalism, if you believe in the principles of Adam Smith, if you believe in the founding fathers and what made this country great, then you need to get out of dollars, and you need to get out of them right now. And I don't know how much more time we have to wait on this, but I wouldn't press it. I wouldn't press it. You know, it's very apropos, you know, all this stuff about Maddox and his Ponzi scheme. Read the article that's on my website right now in Madoff We Trust, or Madoff We Trust, rather. Because Ponzi schemes are illegal for a reason. They're illegal because they don't work, right? What is a Ponzi scheme? What's the difference between a Ponzi scheme and a legitimate investment, right? Well, in the legitimate investments, there are real returns that are generated from investments. In a Ponzi scheme, there are no investments made. There are no returns. The people who put their money in the early stages, the money to make their payments comes from new investors. And the investors coming in today assume that there'll be more investors coming in the future. Whether, usually they don't know it's a Ponzi scheme. But in some cases, like Social Security, everybody knows it's a Ponzi scheme, but we participate anyway. Now, of course, one of the reasons we participate in Social Security is because the government forces us to. Many people would not participate willingly because we can figure out that it's a Ponzi scheme. But the whole idea is when you're running a Ponzi scheme, eventually it's a collapse. Well, the U.S. government, the entire economy, is based on Ponzi scheme financing. Social Security is a Ponzi scheme. The way the government is financing the national debt, it's a Ponzi scheme, right? The national debt always gets bigger. We go deeper and deeper into debt every day. And every time a bond matures, what does the government do? It sells another bond to pay it off. How do we pay the interest on the national debt? Oh, we borrow that money. So we're constantly going into debt. And we count on the fact that we can borrow money and that when the bonds come due, we can borrow more money to pay them off. But what happens is when the creditors decide they don't want to lend anymore, they want their money back, that's when the whole thing collapses. Why is the Madoff scheme, why did this Ponzi scheme collapse? Because several Madoff clients needed their money and asked for it back. And, of course, it wasn't there. Why did they need their money? Well, they lost money someplace else. They lost money in other hedge funds in the stock market, and they had this pile of money, so they thought, sitting in Madoff's fund, so they called up their buddy Bernie and said, hey, I need some of that cash that you've made me all over the years, and the jig was up because the money wasn't there. It was a scam. Well, the same thing's going to happen in the United States. Maybe the Chinese, who are sitting on, trillion plus of U.S. treasuries, they want to stimulate their economy. They have this huge war chest, this huge rainy day fund of U.S. dollars, and they call up Ben Bernanke or they call up Henry Paulson. They say, hey, we're not going to roll over any treasuries today. We'd like to use some of this money that we have in treasuries to pay for infrastructure in our country. So how about sending us $600 billion? Well, we don't have the money. It's a Ponzi scheme. It's over with. And it's a collapse. It's just as good. And this is going to happen. This is going to happen sooner. It's not going to happen later. And of course, I keep laughing. The politicians, I keep hearing on television that everybody wants to. We need an economic stimulus, right? We need to build our bridges and build our roads. Yeah, fine. That's great. It's nice to have roads without potholes and nice bridges. We just can't afford to build them. That's the problem. We're too broke to do that. Where's the money going to come from? Where's the labor going to come from? The reality is there are other things we need to do first. Yes, we should have built up our infrastructure. We allowed it to decay. But the fact that we have to repair it is a cost. It's not a benefit. Think about it. What if somebody, went to a credit counselor? Somebody on an individual, they were having financial difficulties, they were loaded up with debt, and they were struggling, and they went to a counselor, and they said, what do you think I should do? And the counselor's advice was, well, why don't you remodel your house? Can't you need wouldn't it be nicer if you had a new kitchen and better floors? Yeah, that would be great, but you're broke. How are you going to get out of your financial problems by spending more money to remodel your house? Right? The solution to our problems isn't to borrow more money from Japan and China and fix up our roads. No. What we need to do is make things that we can sell to the Japanese and the Chinese to get out of debt so that we can afford to fix our roads with our own money. That's the problem. And, everybody the government employs making bridges and making roads that's somebody who can't make a product, who can't do something else that we need to do more. This is all nonsense. And, of course, most of the roads, the bridges that the government are going to make, they might be bridges to nowhere, in which case not only do we waste our money, but we get a bridge that nobody needs. And, of course, if the government's going to pay for it, we'll probably pay 2 or 3 times what the bridge is worth. But, of course, if we don't even need it, it's worthless. So, look, everything the government is going to do, this massive economic stimulus plan that Obama's got coming down the pike, every time they say the word stimulus, we need to come up with another adjective, like destroy or because every time they stimulate the economy, they're going to make it worse. They're going to impede it. They're going to stymie it. They're going to stifle it. They're going to destroy any chance we have of a meaningful recovery, because we can't have a recovery until this economy restructures. And the market wants to do that, and the government is desperately interfering.